this trial. You're going to hear from students who knew Hannah Baker at Liberty High. You'll hear about a poisonous school culture.
Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the Entertainment Lab. 13 Reasons Why's final season is about to premiere on Netflix. So, I'm your host, the Spoiler Kings, bring you ultimate recap of 13 Reasons Why. If you want to the season-wise recap, go to the description section where I will give you the timestamp or the link to my different videos where I will give you season-wise recap of the series. So before we begin, hit the subscribe button and press the bell icon. And after this point, there are some huge spoilers ahead.
Get a snack, settle in, because I'm about to tell you the story of my life.
Season 1 starts with the Clay Jensen receiving a box of audio cassettes which had been recorded by Hannah Baker. She starts her story with Justin Foley
So you see, that's where the trouble began.
and explain how the rumor began the chain of events that ultimately leads her to suicide. In a flashback, we see that Clay was in love with Hannah since they have worked at a local movie theater. She talks about her friendship with Alex and Jessica and how the latter blames Hannah for her breakup with Alex. In the present, Bryce Walker tries to intimidate Clay to find out how he got his hand on recordings. On the other hand, Hannah's mother Olivia gets help from the principal as she had found some evidence of Hannah's being bullied. In the tape 2, Hannah talks about Alex and how a list made by him has put up a label on her. Although now he is filled with remorse and feels regretful for his actions, but also warns Clay about Tony. In the same tape, she talks about Tyler, who was stalking her and how he anonymously circulated some of her intimate photos with Courtney around the school, as a result of which the latter distanced herself from Hannah. In the present day, in order to take revenge, Clay takes naked picture of Tyler and shares them with the school. Later, Justin, Zach, and Alex steals his bike and forces him to keep his mouth shut about the tapes. So, he now denies having any type of relationship with Hannah to her mother in a lawsuit that she is bringing. In the next tape, she talks about Zach and how he recreated the complaint letter, and in the present, he confesses to Clay that he was scared of the letter's content. Now she tells about Ryan, who has stolen a confession poem describing Hannah's problem and published it in the school newspaper without her consent. After listening to Hannah's story, Clay is now having hallucinations of Hannah. So he decides to return the tapes to Tony. Only then he discloses the event of the night of Hannah's death and Clay takes back the tapes. In the next tape, Hannah discusses about Justin Foley and herself and how both of them allowed Bryce to rape an unconscious Jessica. Meanwhile, in the present, Clay confronts Justin about the incident and Justin wants Jessica to remain out of the loop. Hannah now tells the story about Sherry Holland and how she was responsible for death of Jeff Atkins after she has knocked down a stop sign, for which she is trying to make up by telling his parents that Jeff was all sober when he died. Now is the time for Clay to listen his own story.
Remember that story I was saving for later? Well, this is it.
As claimed by Hannah, he was not a part of the list per se, but he must be, as he is a crucial part of the story.
Your name does not belong on this list. But you need to be here if I'm going to tell my story.
And after listening about himself, he has a mental breakdown, but Tony was there to calm him down. And for a moment, both of them proved to be a lifeguard for each other. Meanwhile, the conversation with Clay has moved Justin and he had realized his mistake. So he admits to Jessica that Bryce has raped her on the night of the party. On the other hand, Olivia has found out the list of names of all people on the tape, but she has no idea what the list actually means. Further in the series of tapes, Hannah talks about Bryce Walker, who had sexually assaulted her in the hot tub, and after this dreadful event, she was forced to create a list of people responsible for her suicide. Coming back to today, everyone mentioned in the list is subpoenaed for a lawsuit and they are asking themselves whether they should tell the truth or pin everything on Bryce. In the meantime, Clay goes to Walker's house and provokes him to attack, but he secretly recorded him admitting to the fact that he raped Hannah. In her tapes, Hannah also mentions Mr. Potter, as he chooses to be a bystander after knowing about everything. Today, in the aftermath of all these events, Zach and Jessica admit their mistakes, whereas Alex shot himself and is in a critical condition. Clay hand over the tapes to Bryce's confession to Tony, who gives them to breakers after making a copy. Season 2 picks up 5 months after the events of first season, things have started to become normal at the school, as Clay and Sky are started dating, and Alex has survived his suicide attempt. Meanwhile, Hannah's trial goes to court, and the first one to testify is Tyler. A few days after, Courtney reveals about her feelings for Hannah in an open court. But Jessica and Alex are both scared to death and feels threatened to avoid revealing anything incriminating in the testimony. On the other hand, Clay is having his own problems as he had broken up with Sky and she had been moved to a psychiatric facility, and he has to help Justin to move into the house for a few days. In the court, Jessica feels threatened and decides not to reveal any information about Bryce. Marcus also lies about the incident of what happened with Hannah on the night they went out, but he mentions Bryce's name. In the meantime, Clay and Sherry tries to help Justin to overcome his heroin addiction, and Jessica shows the threatening note to Mr. Potter, for which he confronts Tyler, but he denies his involvement. A few days after, Clay gets another Polaroid of Bryce showing him assaulting another unconscious girl. He has a hunch that the photos are taken on the school premises and tries to find out where. In the court, it was the time to Ryan's testimony, who reveals that the poem were about Justin. Afterwards, Hannah's mother invites him to find clues in the poem, but he leaves in haste after she talks about the torn journal pages. Meanwhile, Jessica starts attempting group therapy, where she befriends Nina. In the testimony, Zach reveals his friendship with Hannah, to which Clay reacted quite furiously, and Zach also gets in a fist fight with Bryce. Clay's testimony was kind of flashback of his friendship with Hannah, and soon after that, he gets another Polaroid saying it's the clubhouse, and in anger, he uploads Hannah's tape on the internet. Meanwhile, Bryce sexually assaults Chloe, and on the following day, he finds his locker vandalized. On the other hand, Justin ODs on heroin, but Alex somehow manages to save his life. Now comes the time for Mr. Potter to testify, who feels very sorry for the part he played in Hannah's suicide and tries to confront her mother. Later on the day, Bryce threatens Clay, assuming that he was the one who blackmailed Marcus, and soon after that, he was violently beaten up by some of the masked students. He is then approached by Tyler and Cyrus to join him in vandalizing the school, just when he discovered the location of his clubhouse. So he contacts Justin. Both of them are helped by Sherry, who lured the boys into taking her inside the clubhouse, where she saw a box filled with photographs similar to those that Clay received. During a baseball game, Zach confronts Bryce about Jessica and leaves for the clubhouse. Clay and Justin were already in there. He hands over them the box filled with photos and reveals that he was the one who had given him for the first 3 photos.
You already have 3 of these. There's the rest.
After reviewing all the photos, he was able to find a pair where Bryce was sexually assaulting Chloe. Bryce lies while giving the testimony and claims that he and Hannah were friends with benefits. When he returns to school, Justin attacks him in anger, and without wasting any time, everyone became part of it. Afterwards, the day just got even worse, like Clay finds the box of Polaroid photographs was missing from his car. Alex gets a package containing a gun, and Bryce had to confess to her mother that he assaulted Hannah. In the meantime, Clay suffers from another breakdown and thinks about killing Bryce and himself. But this time, Justin manages to calm him down, just like the way Tony did in the last season. Now is the time for Justin to give the testimony, and he tells the truth that the Bryce assaulted Jessica while she was unconscious. And afterwards, everyone in the squad confronts Monty for threatening him during the trial, who also admitted to stealing the Polaroid photos. As the trial concluded, Justin and Bryce were arrested. Mr. Potter gets fired from his job, and Tyler came into the light for vandalizing the school and was placed in a diversion program. 1 month later, Bryce and Justin were convicted for assault, and Justin was adopted by Clay's parent. Soon Tyler returned to the school, but was brutally assaulted by Monty and his friends. The following night, at the school dance, Jessica and Justin bonded together, while Chloe tells Jessica that she is pregnant.
Jess, I'm pregnant.
And at that very moment, Tyler is moving to carry out his plan of mass shooting. But at the last moment, he was stopped by Clay and Tony, and the gun remained in the hands of Clay.
This is $5,000 to cover Justin's debt and to make sure that you leave him alone.
And what are you gonna do if I don't?
Then I guess you're gonna have to find out how good of a friend I really am.
Season 3 runs in 2 timelines. past and present, but I have a trick that will make you understand better. It starts with Clay and group helping Tyler to get back to the track. Meanwhile, a new student, Annie Acola, and Clay gives her a tour of the school. Later in the day, Annie inspired Jessica to run for school president, and that paves the way of their friendship. On the other side, Bryce moves in with his mother and gets bullied in the new school. In the present, Clay is questioned by police about the disappearance of Bryce Walker, as his lock was found in Bryce's room, while principal rebukes Jessica over a riot at the game. It is revealed that Chloe is pregnant and Zack somehow manages to get her an abortion. Annie and Clay confront Jack about Chloe, and he tells them the truth about her pregnancy and also claims that Bryce never knew. On the following day, Tyler walked down by a river, where later on, police pulls out a corpse which is revealed to be Bryce's. Jessica now became the president of student body and forms a group called Hands Off to protect survivors of sexual assault. In the meantime, things were not going well in between her and Alex, so she breaks up with him and tries to patch things up with Justin. Tyler manages to get his hands on photographs of Bryce's body, which looked like that he was shot in the head. Clay gives his bike and lock to Annie and goes to see movie with Tyler. Next day, Tyler demands an apology from Monty, but he puts all the blame on Bryce. But when he threatens Bryce, he tells him that Monty acted on his own. Now, Tyler hands over the gun to Clay and reveals that he was the one who found Bruce's body. The police, while searching for his car, finds steroid which put Alex in front. Later on, Justin tells the group that Bryce was not shot. After his breakup, Alex started using steroids from Bryce. In between all of this, Monty assaults Winston and Bryce had to pay him to keep his mouth shut. Nowadays, as police now searching for the source of steroids, Alex and Monty panics and throws them away, which is when discovered by Clay with the ID of Winston. He tells him about the assault. Meanwhile, Justin gets rid of Tyler's gun and Annie finds Tony's car in Bryce's garage. For Tony, things got ugly as his family is now deported to Mexico, so he goes to Bryce to sell his Mustang. Afterwards, Bryce's funeral gets interrupted by protest of Jessica's survivor group, and soon enough, police gets a CCTV footage of Clay pointing a gun at Bryce. In the meantime, Clay and Annie seems to be developing a feeling for each other. It was also revealed that Annie and Bryce are in casual relationship. Later, Clay denies any knowledge of evidence shown to him. During a counseling session with Mr. Potter, Bryce revealed that perhaps her mother hates him a lot, but in reality, she holds himself accountable for Bryce's behavior. Mr. Potter talks to the group and claims that Clay is innocent and also tells that there is something wrong with Tyler, who then tells him about the assault. Moving on to Justin, he has started working in a cafe where he sells drugs to the customer to pay off his debt, but he is keeping some for his personal use. When Seth threatens him, Bryce comes into the scenario and helps him to clear his debt. Today, Clay found some drugs in Justin's room and things started to get a little bit intense as no one knows how Justin got his hands on drugs. To clear things up, he had to reveal the truth and tells that he has stolen the watch during Bryce's funeral and trades it to Seth for pills. Tony gives Bryce the tapes when he went to his home to confront him about the ICE, and after listening to them, he attempts to apologize to Olivia.
Maybe I should be dead, not Hannah.
Later, drunk Olivia calls Clay and tells him that she wants Bryce to die. So, Clay goes to his house and threatens him, to which he replies that Annie is not for him as he still has feelings for her. In the present, while Jessica came to know about Justin's addiction problem, she promises to help with him. Meanwhile, police comes to Clay's house with a search warrant. The principal allows Bruce to return to the school. Soon, at the homecoming game, Jessica's group started protesting when someone from Hillcrest touches her inappropriately, which ultimately led to a mass brawl. Now, Clay had to ask for Tony's help to help him disappear. When Zack saw Bryce in school, they had an intense fight in which the latter dislocated his knee. Now Zack tries to take his revenge and leaves him severely wounded. Subsequently, the principal convenes assembly where Jessica apologized for her protest and Tyler and Justin reveal to the public that they are sex assault survivors. But before Tony could help him, police arrested Clay. And as for Zack, he surrenders, believing he killed Bryce, although he was not charged with murder as Bryce was drowned, but for assault. Tyler also reports his sexual assault to police, which led Monty to arrest. Abandoned Bryce is now met with Alex and Jessica, but the former pushes him in the river when he threatens to retaliate against Bryce. Now, for Bryce's murder, police first thought that the Monty is the culprit as he gets his alibi wrong. Soon he also gets killed in a jail cell. So Annie encourages the deputy to blame someone already dead. But he quickly concluded that Alex was the killer but doesn't mention anything to anyone. Jessica's group have agreed to cover up for Alex, plays Bryce tape in which he shows remorse for assault and says that nobody will allow him to change. Meanwhile, a fisherman finds a bag of rifle that Tony hid in the river during the spring fling. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you like it, hit the like button, and for more such content like this, subscribe to the channel.